Welcome everyone for the first episode in the data science webinar series. We will not be having the chat on today. However, for all of your responses, you will find a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. If you can hear me, it would be great if you can just say a hi on the Q&A tab. So I am aware, great. I can see your responses coming in. Chandan, Milap, Subrat, good to see everyone joining in. We will be starting over the next 10 minutes or so. I can see many responses coming in. I'm sure everyone can as well. So just to kick off this session and to make it as productive and useful for you, we're going to release a poll so that Mukesh, as well as he takes the session, will have a fair understanding of the audience and everyone who has joined in. So we'll release a poll in the next minute. Please do enter the details that fit your profile. So I have just launched a poll, and that is just for us to understand, for Mukesh as well as the CTO of Capgemini as he goes through the session, just for him to understand your profile. So please do put in your details and then click on send in or submit, and we will have a fair understanding of your profile specifically. Mukesh, can you hear me and can you see?
I can hear you very well, and I can see the poll right now. People are responding. Good.
Brilliant, brilliant, great. So I think we'll start by around 7:02 or so. We will wait for a few more of our audience to join in. More learners will be joining in as the time proceeds. Great to see you all engaging with the poll. Great to see your responses. We've touched 300 attendees right now and are only continually increasing. We've had almost 75% of everyone who's joined in voted already. Do remember that the Q&A tab will be open for your questions. As Mukesh works through the session, he will be keeping a tab and answering the various questions that come up. We can see all of your questions. The last 15 minutes of the session, we will be answering all the various questions that you have. So please do keep the questions coming in. We want to keep the the session as engaging as possible. Joining me and us today also is Yamini Agarwal, who is the program head and manager for our data science programs. So towards the end of the session, the last 15 minutes, both Mukesh and Yamini will be working through the various questions that you have. Mukesh, we'll start in a minute if that works, and that's fine.
Sure, sounds good.
Great. I think let's start. It's great to have Mukesh. Are you ready?
Yes, we can start.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Data Science webinar series. We are kickstarting this today, and it's going to be a series of 8 webinars over the next 8 weeks. Every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. we will have an episode for data science. Next week we have the lead for AI ML at L&T Infotech, who's also going to be talking with us on data science. We look forward to your participation over the next 8 weeks. For today, we have Mukesh Jain, who is the CTO for AI and data at Capgemini, and we are really excited for what Mukesh is going to work through with us. And he's going to be talking about building our careers in data science. So without further ado, over to you, Mukesh, and let's begin.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Let's start. When we discuss what should be the first topic when we are having this series, I thought the best way to start is the getting ready. I know some of you are already thinking about a career in data science and all. Let me briefly start with some of my experience, and then we'll go by about what the industry looks like and how we can get ourselves ready. About 25 years in the industry now, predominantly working in large-scale products. Built systems like Outlook. I'm sure several of you use Outlook for your email, and always been into large products, be it at Reliance, be it at Microsoft, where I spent 13 years. And I was fortunate to build the first artificial intelligence algorithm for Microsoft in the year 1999. Yeah, that's a lot, 21 years back. I'm a regular speaker. I enjoy teaching, coaching people, and also an advisory board at NASSCOM. Published 2 books, and now I'm working on my 3rd book. So that's very high level overview about myself. Currently Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Capgemini, focus on artificial intelligence, data related technology. Let's look at this, the history, right? I'm not going to go to each one of the boxes here. We started around 2005 and talking about data science, where the word was coined in 1997, and slowly it started moving to it. And I would say 2005 was the time when it started getting mainstream. Yes, the analytics was there before that as well. Even the data part was used even before that. But that doesn't mean that we are totally new or something. It just means that we have come a long way. Now it has become a lot more easier and popular. Why now? Why not 20 years back? That's the question you may have it. And the primary reason is threefold. First, the compute, the memory, the storage, the bandwidth was not as much. We were talking about kilobytes at that time. Now we're talking about gigabytes. The huge transition from kilobytes to megabytes to gigabyte have made this possible. Second, the storage. The cost was humongous cost to do any storage. And of course, compute. When I had my first machine about 25 years back, I was very happy. I had 4 MB RAM on my first machine, costing me 75,000 rupees 25 years back in India. Okay, compared to now, for 15,000 rupees, you can get a decent machine with a good RAM as well. Of course, you'll not buy 15,000 rupees machine. You normally buy 30,000 rupees machine, but that's how the long way we have come now here. With that becomes much more easier. Other aspect is the good use of technologies, the packages available, and of course, the training aspect of it. Bloomberg released a report just few months back, 3 months to be precise, that the market of data science, analytics, or big data would be within 6 years would be about $512 billion. $500 billion market is huge. We are talking about anywhere and anything and everything to do with data. In today's session, and let me give you some practical aspect of what that would be. Of course, this data you can get on the internet as well. Not going to go too much detail onto this, but getting perspective about why this. If you look at it last couple of years, starting from Harvard Business Review, when they published this report in 2012, 8 years back, yes, 8 years back, the sexiest job of 21st century, yes, the data science job. in my experience of 25 years, I always found, even today, like hard to get the data science people who have got the right level of knowledge. They are skilled and ready to upskill. The upskilling part is something which is important. Yes, I do get a lot of engineers who are good at Java and other things. They're good start. But as soon as the data comes in, oh, I'm not a data person. And people try to shy away from those. It is a challenge. It is a big challenge as we go forward. But slowly, more and more availability of the tools and the open source part of it and the training availability become a lot more easier for people to learn this. I got some people raising that my voice might be little not clear. Let me switch off my video for time being, and we'll come back if needed after towards the end. So over a period of time, we realized that the shortage of data scientists is getting bigger and bigger. And now with a lot of advent of training available, becomes easier for people to jump those. The difference over there is essentially the ability to grasp new things on data, the attitude about learning new things, plus ability to upskill ourselves. So now it has started getting mainstream. The examples I'm going to give you today will actually make you think, oh yeah, that's correct. Of course, just remove the COVID situation out of the equation, but you will get an idea about how what I'm talking about here, the data, anything and everything with, about data. This article in HBR, I put the link also over here. Now let me go to the next slide. So why there is a need? Okay, first and foremost part, okay, there is users have choice. I'm sure you would agree to that. When I say users have choice, think about it. Think about it when you are at the airport, okay, and then you are trying to book an Uber or Ola, and then it is giving you a lot more time to load, right? It is either giving you time that, you know, the nearest vehicle is like 10 minutes away, or the price it is going to charge you 700 rupees. It is not sometimes practical. So what would you do? You kill the application and move to Uber, right? Or if you're trying to do some application, it's taking too long to load, you should switch over to another application. The reason I'm giving you all this example is because users have choice. People move over to other apps. Now, if you are owner of Ola or Uber, or you are data science scientist, or you are a marketing person, is there a way you can find out why somebody decided not to book an Ola or Uber at that time, where you could have got some good revenue from that particular user, right? Maybe, maybe not. The primary or the bottom line is, in case if you are capturing that detail, if you are understanding what the users is, it happens. Just to give you an example, I was traveling back from Paris recently, and I landed at the Mumbai airport trying to book Uber, and it is showing me 700 rupees. I know normally it takes only 400 rupees to reach my home. So what I did, I switched over to Ola, found out the ride was 450 rupees, booked it, and I left. Few minutes later, I get an SMS. The SMS which comes to me saying that, hey, you tried to book, you did not book. Do you want to give feedback? Sure. I click on the give feedback. Only one question, 5 options. Which why did you not book it? And I chose the option which was too pricey. Done. A few minutes later, I get an SMS saying that we apologize for the inconvenience caused. Few minutes later, another SMS. This is 300 rupees coupon for your next ride. Done. What was that? Point number 3, which was leverage analytics to understand your user, the usage part of it, and see, is this person a regular user? I'm a regular user on Uber. The person is regular, mostly books a ride from airport to home. This is the normal sequence the person have, and now the person is not booked it. How did Uber know that I did not book it? Because my Uber app was still on, the location was moving. As the location was moving, they realized that person had left. The movement was so fast that, of course, it was not walking. It has left from vehicle. We need to understand why that has happened. That intrinsic integration between the data, the application, and most important, the user behavior is what is called data-driven innovation. Okay, the growing need, there's a bigger and bigger need that you should be able to understand your product usage, your experience in terms of how the data is being leveraged to get bigger and better innovation in your organization. Essentially boiling down to, can we compete with analytics? When I say compete with analytics, we are talking about the apps we are using, the e-commerce services we have, pretty much anything and everything. If you are able to understand your user better, you will be in a better position to compete with them. That essentially I'm talking about here. So I gave you a couple of examples. Of course, I'm not biased towards Uber or Ola or Flipkart or Amazon. It does not matter. It's for usage, for the education purpose. You will get an idea of that. Now let me jump to another example. Okay, the slide talks about there are few things which people want more, and there are few things people want less. You might be in a business, you might be doing a startup, or you might be leading some part. I looked at the demographic of people who have joined the call. There are a few people who are at 0 to 3 years experience. There are a few people at 10 plus years experience as well, and then few people in between. Now, if you are in an organization, you are tasked with running some program, you would have to think about, for this particular product, what the organization have, or the service we are providing to our customer, what is required more, what is required less. For example, Amazon, the example you would have seen with the ad which says or dikhao. In English, it means show me more options. So that part is required more. When you are buying a phone, you require more memory, more RAM. Okay. At the same time, when you're using Ola or Uber, you want less time for the vehicle to come to you, less price for those. So it's all about experience. The faster and the better you are able to categorize this, what is required by an organization, by a product for your consumer, you will be able to better build that system to understand this and drive data-driven decisions better and better. Let me give you some perspective about data. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about data a lot. Let me give you some perspective. So when you talk about data, the first thing question people come to your mind is, what is the data? Okay, and sometimes people only think numeric value is data. Not necessary. It could be a numeric value. It could be a combination of the qualitative data and quantitative data. Think about it. When you finish a ride, or when you get a feedback response and you're giving 1 to 5, okay, that is your numeric value. Quantitative data, compared to when you put a feedback in a text format which says, yeah, I like this, but that, or you put on Facebook or LinkedIn some text message about, yeah, this product was not so good. When you're putting those part, it is your qualitative feedback. Ability to understand this qualitative part or the quantitative part is nothing but your difference between structured and unstructured data, and building on top of it. You'll be surprised to know, even today, after so many years of data science existence, 96% of the data is still unstructured. It's hard to understand those parts. Imagine somebody post a picture on Twitter and then say, look at this. Is this positive? Is this negative? What is there in that picture? Hard to find out. Why? Because it is unstructured data. Unstructured data, things like images, audio, video, and most important, text. These are all unstructured data. And having an understanding of unstructured data is very much required. Now let me show you the second point. Most of the reference material and the books you would be using have a statement which says every activity generates data, which is true, but I don't agree completely. I modify the statement and say every activity or inactivity both generates data. Your inactivity, since 7 p.m. today evening, you are not checking your WhatsApp. You are busy with this session. You are inactive since 7 p.m. today evening. Your friends, when they try to reach you, they would see you are inactive. And then last seen at 7 p.m. India time. So this kind of activity, inactivity, you need to have that thought process about understanding. All about data. How do you interpret inactivity? How do you interpret activity? And all those part of it. Again, the statement also says data. It generates data. How well can we understand the data? How well can we use the data? Next point I would like to highlight is experimentation. There's a concept which I used to use a long time. Even now it is valid. A concept called HIPPO. HIPPO stands for highest individual paid person's opinion. Yes, I mean that. Sometimes a lot of these decisions are made by people who are at a senior level. What happens with that? Sometimes we miss out on the data element. Sometimes we just say, oh, just because our boss have said so, we have to do that. It might be true for 80-90% that we have to do those. But what if we have some access to data, can we do better? That's exactly what the meaning of experimentation is. Some of you may have heard about this, or some of you may not have. Quickly, I'll give you an example of experimentation. It is about A or B. A-B testing. Is A better or B better? Comparison of those and deciding what works best. Just to give you an example, let's say Paytm. Okay, Paytm gives you an offer. The offer is 20% cashback on 100 rupees recharge, compared to another offer Paytm gives, which is 20 rupees cashback on 100 rupees recharge. Now look at this. Prima facie, both appears to be the same, exactly same offer. But now, if I do a good understanding of my audience, which include male, female, which include different diversity background, which include people from different locations of India, different IT background, marketing background, manufacturing background, to 1 year experience, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. So if I look at all the demographic, is there a certain behavior where people respond better to percentages compared to this? And my research shows, yes, there is a clear differentiation. Male, female, there is a difference. Education level, there is a difference. Okay, demographics, where the person is, which city they live in, and all, huge difference. And at a very high level, if I want to differentiate, when I ask this question to in a broader example, broader sense, when I ask this question, maximum people are from India. When I say maximum, I'm talking about 90+%. Now 90+% from India will give the answer percentage is better. Compared to some other location, when I'm giving the same session outside India, I might get a response which is the actual value is better. Okay? Why? Okay, that a lot of things goes to upbringing, your demographic, your culture, ethnic background, all those things together is giving you. That is nothing but experimentation. Without letting the user know what are we doing an experiment on, if we try to collect all this information and then position your product or offers or services, that is nothing but experimentation, which is fine-tuning your services, fine-tuning your offer to target to a particular segment. Okay, of course, data tells a lot about somebody, right? The intent aspect, the word intent is a lot more important. Think about it. Let me ask you a question. You can put your answers in your Q&A window. Just put your answers. When I say 2020, what comes to your mind? Please put your answers in the Q&A window. I'm going to look at the answers and then I'll respond to my feedback. 2020, what comes to your mind? Okay, several of the people are giving feedback. Yes, IPL, cricket, COVID. Okay, lots of answer. Good interaction. Thank you. Okay, so I see lots of answer already there. Good. Okay, yes. Some of you have put 2020 means Abdul Kalam book. Very good. Okay, what else? Biscuit, excellent. There's a Parle biscuit called 2020. Very good. Upskill, good job. Okay, what else? The year, of course, the year 2020 we are in right now. Excellent. I love this crowd. You are very, very active. Good. By the way, there are other 2020 also. 2020 iVision, one of you mentioned. 2020, there's a talk show program in US and in UK, and 2020 is a weight loss program in US. Now think about it. If I only give you the number 2020, how would you determine what is the intent? You're doing a Google search 2020. An American comes to India and does a Google search 2020, and we are telling them, oh, go play cricket. Oh, no, eat Parle biscuit. Oh, read this book. The person, no, I want to look at my weight loss program 2020. So now, if you can relate to this, it's an intent, understanding what this person really wanted, and vice versa, right? When a person from India or is in US and trying to search for 2020, of course, cricket should be the first priority. So it's not just about the location where you are doing a search. It's a combination of location, your past history, your pattern, all of those things combined together makes it 2020, right? That's what intent is. Huge data power is required, a lot of analytics, a lot of things to come up with those elements. Now, why am I giving all these examples? All these examples together with data makes it very valuable for people to know, yes, you are not just knowing the analytics, you can actually derive some value out of it and give value, which is in terms of dollars or rupees for the organization, which means all of what you learn, okay, you are good at upskilling yourself, you learn a lot of new technology. As long as it is bringing value to the organization, it is great. Value in the terms of doing better results for the organization, be able to take more customers and all of those things together. Now let me talk about a brief about analytics. I'm sure some of you already know this, just quickly touching on those. So analytics is a scientific process. So we're talking about process deriving insights. Okay. So you look at the data, you sniff the data, and you get insights out of it. That is nothing but your analytics part. Analytics, by looking at the data, finding out insights, it's an extensive process of finding out facts, data, statistical analysis, and most important, explanatory. Can you explain the data? That is important. Now let me give another example. Let's say there is a store nearby, let's say a Big Bazaar, or let's say D-Mart or Reliance Fresh. There's a store. If I make a comment saying that in the last week, of course, remove COVID from your mind right now. In the last week, D-Mart did 10 lakh rupees sale. Okay. The question would be, is this good or is it bad? Okay. You may not be able to answer. You may say, wait a minute. This just 10 lakh rupees sale last week doesn't give me enough information to make my judgment. Good. That is because you only have data. You don't have anything more than the data. You don't have a reference and so on. So now when I take data and add a layer which says, hey, by the way, D-Mart, normally the same store makes a sale of 25 lakh rupees per week. Now with that, you can say, yes, I now have more information. So you started with data, now you have information. Okay. Now the question you will ask, what happened? Why 10 lakhs? Why it went down? You want to understand, you want to get insights. That is what the word explanatory means, which means you are getting the insights so that you can explain the phenomena. If the phenomena is good, you want to do more. If the phenomena is bad, you want to do it less. And that's how you create your model. And then you do this model. Essentially, it helps you to take decisions, better decisions and action, so that they can deliver business value. Analytics in whole is about looking at data, getting out insights, take decisions, action, and get value. That is how we should do it. If you stop at just explaining, it is nothing but your dashboard, your business intelligence. Hey, this is what happened. That's it. No, we are not in that business. We want to get value out of it. That's the reason we're talking about in these details. Okay. Now let me give you some real life example. This real life example is for you to see the things which you are doing every day. You should be able to find out, oh, now I understand. So much analytics goes into this picture, right? So let me give you an example here. Analytics in e-commerce. Anything and everything in e-commerce can be improved or optimized using analytics. You'll be surprised to know Amazon US, 64% sale on Amazon happens because of recommendation engine. That's how powerful it is. You might think, yeah, sometimes it's annoying. People who have bought this have also bought that, but it works. 64%, it's huge. I experienced myself as well, that when I'm trying to purchase some book and I see the recommendation, of course, wow, this is good. Let me buy that book also. Recommendation, very, very powerful. Okay. So let me ask you this question. I'm sure you have used Amazon. I'm sure you have used YouTube or Netflix. Let me take a quick example. By the way, my daughter just bought a laptop a few days back, and then we tried this, and it even now it works that way. Imagine you have a brand new laptop. You just bought in. You connect to your Wi-Fi. Okay. Do not log in onto Gmail. Do not visit any website. The first website you visit is YouTube. You go to YouTube, you see certain recommendations, certain things come to your screen. You have not logged in. They don't know who you are. You have just started your machine on your Wi-Fi. What should be the recommendation? You can put your answers in Q&A bucket, please. I'm going to just quickly look at it and then summarize this. Okay. I see a lot of you have put some responses already. Great. What do you expect when people brand new laptop? Okay. Lockdown 2020, India, cricket. Okay. What should you see? Okay. Okay. 1 second. I think just 1 second. Why is it taking too long? Okay. 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 Yes. Okay. Sorry. 1 second. Okay. Several of you put a response, which is the latest thing happening, latest thing. Perfect. Right answer. So when you are watching, when you go to YouTube, it will actually first give you some trailers, something which is very, very specific to the current location. Excellent answer. Okay. Current location. So popular video in your current location. Good job. Now imagine you don't like any of those. You go and type there, Dabangg. Okay. Some of you may know this movie, Dabangg. You type Dabangg and press enter. You get list of Dabangg movies and something related Dabangg content. You watch the first one, which is Dabangg movie by the actors and actresses. You watch that movie. Once the movie is complete, you go back to the YouTube site again. Okay. Now again, still you are not logged in. You just go to the site and now it shows you some more recommendation. What are the new recommendations now you would see after you watch the first movie, which is Dabangg? Okay. I see a lot of you have given response. Okay. Okay. To my surprise, several of you are giving me response, which is Salman Khan movie. Seriously? Were you watching because of Salman Khan? I thought you were watching because of Sonakshi Sinha. Maybe you like Sonakshi Sinha or maybe Salman Khan. Could be anything. YouTube doesn't know why are you watching the movie. YouTube thinks you watch this movie for certain reasons. 144 parameters. For every video content you watch, there are 144 parameters which YouTube gets. When you give this 144 parameters, knowingly or unknowingly, mostly unknowingly, and then YouTube makes a model for you, the recommendation model for you. And it says, okay, fine, you're watching because of Sonakshi Sinha. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Salman Khan for you, by the way. So they're watching because of this. Let me give you some more recommendation. So you would start playing those. Why? Because the purpose of YouTube is to make sure it gives you more recommended, more better content. And same thing works with Netflix, by the way. So that you can come back more often, find more interesting content for you. And that's how. So when you watch it for the first time, 144 parameters gets value 1. When you watch it second time, some other movie related content, those common elements get a higher rating. The one which you are not doing gets slightly lower rating. So 1 becomes 1.1, becomes 0.9, and it plays around with that. The playing around with that is your machine learning algorithm at best to give you. The better the algorithm you create, the better the output is. That's how Netflix, YouTube, Hotstar, a lot of them make money. Of course, you can. It is various level. Some of them does better, some of them does not do as better, which is okay. Junk filter. I'm sure you use Outlook. You would know how much junk you get and all. This was the problem I was handling when I came to know 15,000 junk email Bill Gates gets in a day. Okay, so when I created this model, of course it was just out of curiosity. So I did not focus on the junk filter. I did not focus that people who get Nigeria thing or promotions and all those things should be junk. I don't believe that word. I believe junk is subjective. I believe junk is by person. If I, as a user, believe Flipkart is junk, so Flipkart is junk for me. Or if you could be the person who believe Amazon is junk for you, it is for you. So junk is relative to that person. So instead of me focusing on blindly, which was the earlier old model, by the way, still used by a lot of companies, instead of blindly focusing that this kind of content is junk, I use artificial intelligence and focus on the behavioral aspect of the user. When I did this in 1999, there was no R, there was no Python, there was no freely available library. So all I did was in language C, I wrote this program 221 lines of code, which was about understanding the pattern. Imagine, I'll show you the algorithm, by the way, very simple algorithm. Imagine you get an email and you delete the email in less than 3 seconds. The chances of that email being important to you is very less, compared to an email which you read more than 5 seconds. Chances of that being junk is very less. On that similar model, when I created this model, it was able to capture 94% of the email classified correctly because it's learning. Machine learning at best. So either I read the email or delete the email or read it twice, thrice and all. It understands and builds the model and slowly start moving some email to junk based on my model. Few things that happen. Either these are really junk or not junk. So you can imagine the data, the information part, the insights part, and machine learning. The machine learning starts kicking in, and within a week, it is 94% accurate. It's a good start. It worked. That's why the solution. That's why you're probably getting less junk email in Outlook than any other email provider. You can thank me for that. Next one. I'm sure all of you would have seen this. The Geo network. Okay. When it was launched, yes, some of you had good access, some of you did not see the good access. September 2016, I'm talking about, right? But as and when you were using it, the data was collected to see, hey, are you getting the good coverage? Are you getting the call drops? All those things Together, clusters were formed. Oh, this particular cluster with 10-meter radius do not have good network. Something to be done. Clustering algorithm at best, continuously optimizing it, finding out, oh, should we have 10 towers in this region or should we only have 3 and put 20 towers in that region? Again, to see depending on the volume, depending on the situation and all those things, of course, using advanced analytics to understand how this usage is, and using machine learning, optimizing the network for a set of users. Okay. There are lots of other examples. Let me briefly go to some of the sectors. I've seen some of you are from IT sector, some of you are from marketing, some of you manufacturing, and some of you banking. So this slide gives you perspective about what kind of sectors, solutions you'll be using in your day-to-day activity in your particular sector. So if you are talking about automation in banking and finance, we are talking about mistake proofing, having bots, authentication services, compliance, FATCA. Yes, there's some laws, the compliance we need to do, transaction monitoring. You would have noticed when you swipe your credit card, sometimes it just takes 2 seconds to get the slip. Sometimes it takes 10 seconds. Sometimes it gets declined. Why? All of them analytics at best. 2 seconds, because your transaction was very straightforward. 2 seconds, it did 1,000 checks, looks good, go ahead. But sometimes it takes 10 seconds. Why? The first 1,000 records, checks shows maybe there is a 1% chance of a fraud. 1%. 1% is good enough for us to be suspicious. What will happen? Another 1 million checks happen. If even after that it's a suspicion, oh guys, reject the transaction. It's better to reject a transaction rather than allowing a fraud person to take money from you, right? So all those things are machine learning algorithm built in to provide. By the way, some banks do 1%, some banks do 0.1%. It's up to the banks to do it and all. Again, there are a lot of fraud prevention. We talked about watch list. There are certain watch lists of people, transaction, type of transaction, type of merchants, PIN codes, zip codes, all of those things together. And of course, targeting. Customer insights, I would say we are not there yet. I still get calls from a lot of banks. I'm not going to name them. Hey, personal loan. Hey, this thing. And all. Guys, look at my profile. Stop calling me. Okay. Cross-sell, upsell is not there yet. People just call it. Next set. Multiple sector. We're talking about manufacturing. We're talking about marketing. Marketing is one of the good one to adopt. It's not matured there yet, but it's good one. Banking, finance is another one. Manufacturing is a really big one. Okay. When we're talking about doing some IT solution for manufacturing, huge opportunity. You're talking about IoT, you're talking about AI, a lot of those things together. We are essentially coming up with the intelligent automation, not blindly automation, intelligent. That's where AI is used. That's where lots of data is used to get to the place where we are. Real-time interaction, speech to text, and all those parts. Okay, imagine you're making a phone call and speaking with somebody, and you say, "Hey, this service is not good. I'm very unhappy. I'm going to go to your competitor." Okay, the name competitor, it could be Airtel, Vodafone, Jio, Idea. It could be Amazon, Flipkart, blah blah blah. So as soon as the text, speech to text kicks in and say, "Hey, you use a competitor word. Let me get a supervisor on the call." Right? Automatic. Some automation and all those things could be a good option, and gamification and some of the other insights. Understanding the intent and all. Huge opportunity, pretty much all the sectors. At my role as Capgemini, when I'm consulting Fortune 500 clients, or be it when I'm teaching, or be it in my earlier roles as a consultant as well, lots and lots of opportunity in this. It's just a matter of us people who are in data science, be able to look at it, capitalize on the opportunity and doing it. So that brings to my next point, which is about the career. You may have a question, oh, what kind of careers are available? I would say, as of today, yes, there are a lot of data science career. Okay, data technology, business management career. Okay, you would be surprised to know 70%, 70% of the job description have something to do with analytics even today. So if 70% is today, in 1 year from now, it will be 80-85%, and then sometime it will be there will not be any job who do not deal with data. Now think about it. The scenario I talked about, Uber sending me coupon. How did it happen? The management decided. Management is people who are with some gray hairs like me. Management decided, hey, let's have some more people, especially the loyal people. I want them more to be using Uber. The business people. Some of you like you, or some of you people from management, they say, okay, fine, I'm a product manager. I'm going to have this particular algorithm. Loyal people, at least once in a month, I want to send a coupon. But what next? You go to the data science team and say, hey, is it really working? Should I do this or should I do something else? And data science gets, you know what? If you are dealing with data with loyal users of this, the percentage doesn't work. You need to give this kind of coupon. You need to do this. You're giving that insight to the business. Business say, yes, I'm going to do this. But can I pretty much guess what is the difference between the people airport rider or this rider, that rider, all those parts? The data scientist person said, yeah, it's doable. Let me talk to the tech person. The tech person comes in, does some crunching. Right now, you may be in a job in a tech which is not using data. But I'm telling you, within a year or 1.5 years, even there will be requirement that, hey, do you know at least ABCD of data? Are you even data literate to be able to code what is required? Because gone are the days where you just have a software, it works. Yeah, it works sometimes. But it could be also, is it collecting the data which the data science team needs to fuel the business so that management can take a decision? So all of those things together, the role and all is huge. Let me give you some perspective on the roles. So when you're talking about this, somebody asked me this question. There is no right or wrong answer, but as a thumb rule, most of the data science related jobs and work and all will typically get 40% higher salary than a typical engineer. Okay, let's say a typical engineer get 3.8 lakh rupees, which is the norm nowadays. This one will get roughly 5 point some lakh rupees a data science as a first job. Okay, but as you're growing, some of you are students, some of you are in early stage, some of you are 10 years experience, right? So the 40% rule may not apply to you. It could be 100% more. It could be 20% more. Again, this is an roughly average. But as you're going, as you're getting into this career, you would see these ranges. This range I've copied from some of the data available on Glassdoor, some of the analytics Vidya reports as well. So as you're growing, I'm not saying this is the only path. You could be data analyst for several years, not necessarily, or you could become data scientist, even 5 years experience also. But this is mota like big kind of roles. But as you get into the leadership roles, especially people who are ready to upskill. Why I'm saying upskill, more emphasizing on upskill, because sometimes people, especially in the senior role, they stop learning. What they say, no, I'm done this, I'm going to manage people. I don't think those kind of role will exist after some time. As long as you are touched with data, you probably have a good role for making a big impact in the organization. So that's what I mentioned. Analytics is mentioned and expected at multiple roles. Okay. So in summary, what are we talking about? In summary, we are talking about industry expectation. Okay. Ability to leverage data for delivering business value. Data, business value. It goes together. It's not just your ability, hey, I can create a model. By the way, nobody's going to ask you and say, hey, please leverage linear regression model, get some insight with 95% accuracy, and we will see what to do. Nobody's going to go do that. People are going to say, hey, my business is this much. If you have whatever model you use, I don't know, I don't care. Can you get me bigger business value? That will be the new demand at the business level. Okay, then that person will translate and so on and all. If anybody in the change does not know the lingo, if you go and say, hey, I'm going to use neural network and do this part, people say, later, tell me which model are you going to use within neural network? What exactly are you going to do? How are you going to measure? Is that going to be false positive, false negative? All those things are now expected. That is what my point number 2 is. You should be able to understand the data, and just by looking at the data, you should be able to say, hey, I'm going to use this analytic model to get you the value. Okay, able to understand and explain how things work. Search for how things work on the internet. The examples I gave you, Uber, Ola, Flipkart, Amazon, YouTube, search for it. Several organizations, several products are now using this data. How things work, you'll get you insights. How does Google Map work? Okay, how does Paytm work, right? All those things you will find out several places data is used regularly. Ability to come up with idea, opportunity using data. Somebody say, hey, I have this data, what can we do? Should be able to do that. That's a typical interview question you should be expecting there. Last couple of points before we open up for question. How do you solve a particular problem using data? People say, hey, I have this problem, and instead of jumping to solution, for example, somebody says, hey, I have a traffic problem in my city. How do you solve it? Don't jump to answers saying that odd even. Don't jump to answers saying that we'll build bridges. No, those are not the answers. Those may be the answer, but unless you have gone through the data journey, you cannot claim that answer. Continuous learning, upskilling, business understanding is the need of the hour. Okay. I remember a phrase which used to be called jack of all trade, master of none. It has changed over a period of time. It is more like jack of all trade, master of some. And the all means you should be able to speak that lingo. You should be able to know what's happening. And this is where the upskilling comes into picture. Okay. So in conclusion, there are top 30 technologies: AI, Internet of Things, machine learning, blockchain, big data, automation. All of those things are the top one. Each one of those, as you can see, uses data. Let me pause here. Let me go back to this screen. Let me pause here and see if you have any questions. Please put your questions in Q&A tab. I'm now going to answer some of those. I am there. Yamini is there. We both should be able to answer several of your questions. Please put your questions there. I need my specs to read these questions now. I'm doing that.
Great. So keep the questions coming, everyone. We both Yamini, the program manager, and Mukesh are now going to move into the Q&A session. So any and every question that you have with regards to your, your profession, you're looking to transition or upskilling or any of those sorts of questions, please do ask them and we will take up the questions. Yamini, am I audible to you?
Yes, Stefan, can we now brief them about our program also and also the different kind of things that we are offering here?
Yeah. Sure. Why don't you start, Yamini? I think, even with Upgrad, we have various different, aspects about data science, and we take it up as well very seriously. Yamini handles all our various data science programs. So Yamini, why don't you start with just trying to unpack what are the various programs that Upgrad has, and, what do we do about data science and how do we go about it?
Sure. So guys, at Upgrad, we have 3 offerings for data science. One of them being a PGC, that is a postgrad certification. The other being a master's program, that is Masters in Data Science from Liverpool John Moores University as well as IIIT Bangalore. And the third one is a PG diploma in data science from IIIT Bangalore, right guys? So now what is the difference between 3 programs? It's just that in certification, we do not have an alumni status, whereas for the other 2 programs, we have alumni status from the respective universities. And the different, talking about the learning platform of Upgrad, so you guys will have access to the pre-recorded sessions. You guys will have access to numerous live sessions, which occurs almost every week or bi-weekly. And you guys will also have access to small group coaching sessions with industry experts, where you guys can clear your doubts very, very well. Other than this, the entire learning is designed in a way. The diploma program is for 12 months. The master's program is for 18 months. The first 12 months being very similar to the diploma program. The other 6 months is something that you cover with Liverpool John Moores University, where you have to submit your research paper and other stuff. And there is a certification program that is PGC for 6 months time, right? And the learning platform goes about that you have a student mentor who's assigned to you. So even if you have a very high experience, and you guys are worried about the fact that, how will I get back to studies now? It's not a worry, because more than you, it's our duty to make sure that you are doing your program very well. You are completing all your assignments on time, because you will be receiving multiple assignments, as the learning hour demanded from you is 12 hours a week, at least 10 to 12 hours, 10 only if you have some kind of experience in the field of data analytics. But if you don't, then 12 to 15 hours is something which is demanded out of you for you to make the most of it, right? So in that case, a student success mentor is someone who you can reach out to for all the kind of troubles. For example, if you are busy during 1 week, the person will schedule all your assignments in a way so that you can complete it either in that week or the next week. We also have idea of a few buffer weeks, like 3 to 4 buffer weeks during the course of program. This is only to make sure that everyone is at the same pace. You guys will have access to a preparatory course, and this preparatory course is mainly for people who do not have a background in coding, who do not have a background in Python, just to give them a gist of, what they are going to do in their main program, so that everyone, when they start the program, they are at the same pace. Now, for all the 2 programs, that is master's as well as diploma, we have 5 different kind of tracks which is available, and the same is also available on our web page. And these 5 tracks are according to different industries that you belong to. Like, our industry expert Mukesh was discussing, we have a lot of different things that happens with data science. For example, Netflix uses data science, machine learning. On the other hand, something like a Uber also uses data science in today's world, and something like a sales and marketing company also uses data science. And a sector like retail, for example, like Big Bazaar also uses data science, and Amazon also uses, which is e-tail, uses data science. And not just this, some of the sectors that we don't even know about that uses data science is the healthcare sector. A lot of doctors and scientists are working on using machine learning in order to design good equipments for, in order to track that, you know, this patient has had this kind of history and this is the kind of life or longevity that he will have. Hospitals are using data science to identify the customer life cycle value, that if this person is coming to me now, for how long will this person keep coming to me, right? So that is how data science is, you know, growing in sectors that we don't even know about. For example, renewable sources of energy is one sector where data science is used in tremendous way, and none of us know about it. For example, auto sector, guys. Auto sector is somewhere where data science is used tremendously in today's world, and we do not know so much about it. Construction. So we might think that, you know, I'm a civil engineer. How is data science relevant to me, right? But then that's not the case, because construction is again another sector. If you will see big construction companies like Shapurji Palunji, if you'll see something like a India Bulls, everyone is using data science to identify that this building was constructed by me 5 years ago when the conditions were this, when the traffic was this much, you know, when the land quality was this, when the temperature was this, and today when the data keeps changing, what is the trend that we are facing, and what should be the quality, what should be the material. So everywhere, wherever you guys go, machine learning, data science is something which is being used everywhere. So now, guys, answering a very simple question that most of you might have in your mind, that is, what are the firstly 5 tracks? So the 5 tracks is business intelligence, business analytics, machine learning, we have deep learning, we have NLP, which are the 2 main algorithms which is used in machine learning. And the 5th track that we have is data engineering, which is for core engineers who want to stick to, you know, writing production code. But, you know, to be a data scientist, it's not essential to know coding. Whereas I would say that to become a machine learning engineer, a person should have a background in coding, and he should know how to use at least one of the coding languages, because tomorrow he will have to work on cloud and he will have to implement the kind of models he makes. But a data scientist job is not to do that, although it is to do that to some extent. But a data science is a broader role where you guys are involved in solving the broader problems. So don't think of it as a small space, rather think of it as a very big space, and that is how it is, right? So guys, so now we'll be taking up the individual questions, I guess, Mukesh and me. And I have tried to give you a brief idea, and also we'll have a follow-up counseling session, a group counseling session for you guys, in order to take your queries in a much better fashion, in order to answer all your questions one by one. Because I understand that today, after this session, you guys will go back and start reading about data science, start trying connecting the dots, that, you know, how it is used in your particular industry, and that will give rise to a lot of questions, right? So in that case, we will make sure that we try to solve these questions. I will personally be available for that session, and I will try to take all your doubts. I will try to tell you that how UpGrad can help you solve that kind of questions, or in general, why this kind of question. Guys, just one more thing that I would like to add here. A lot of questions which I saw is that why this program during this entire COVID scenario? What will happen to the data science industry in this entire COVID scenario? And that is something that we did not cover till now in the session. So I would like to throw one light on this, that you guys might be seeing, right? Like the entire retail sector is locked down. On the other hand, something like a Big Basket is something which is still running, and they are running at 50% more capacity. All the retail stores are now delivering stuff by using Swiggy, right? So this is the future. This is where data science is used tremendously, that is product companies, machine learning is used tremendously, and that is the future. So don't you guys think that after these things will end, the retail sector will start opening up roles for data scientist and machine learning engineer? Don't you think something like a Westside, which now has a store, will try to move to the online delivery sites? Amazon will become way bigger, and it will become a very big player, and many other retail companies will try to follow Amazon's model so that they don't run out of business if this kind of persistent lockdown happens, right? So that is why when these jobs will be created 5 months down the line, they will be start looking for people. And then if there is not enough supply of people, there will be a demand supply gap, right? So we want to train you guys today so that tomorrow when there is opportunity, you guys can go back and you guys can have much better roles, right? And guys, another thing that why you should do it right now, a very negative reason or maybe a scary reason is that all of you might be very insecure about what will happen when you go back to your company at this point of time, right? You know, there will be a lot of layoff which you guys might not know about right now. There will be a lot of firing that will go on, especially in companies, which have a lot of people in it, for example, a TCS or a Cognizant or something like that. So in that kind of scenario, especially in banking industry also, because everyone is facing some or the other kind of loss in today's world, right? So in order to, be at a position where you are above the peers and to increase your chances to stay in that company and to transition yourself into a better role in the company where the firing or the layoff is not happening, you have to upskill yourself. And that is why the entire idea of upskilling at this point of time, where the entire country is suffering from pandemic situation, where all of us are working from home, increases to a tremendous extent. So that is the reason why it is so important to do this right now. Firstly, because data science is an avenue which will open up after this. And the other thing is that you don't want to lose your job and you want to be above your peers, right? So you need to do something at this point of time so that your prospects of staying in the company is more than any other person in the company. So guys, I think Mukesh, me will now take up a few questions. So Stefan, would you like to
Yeah,
moderate these
yeah,
questions or
yeah.
should we just start answering the questions?
I will
Mukesh?
moderate the questions. I'll moderate the questions. So I think
Sure.
firstly, I'm
Yeah.
going to ask Mukesh a couple of questions that have been coming through. At this point in time, Mukesh, we're seeing, I think Yamini touched upon it earlier, this industry as well as a whole with this entire situation, with the COVID situation and the economy. What's the future of this session of this, industry as a whole? Is it a time where it's going to construct and, go backwards, or is it still going to grow? What do you think is your thoughts on that?
So my experience again, I've this 1.5 month of this situation of COVID situation and all. I think if you look at it, more and more organizations are using the word optimize. More and more organizations say, hey, can I do this with less? So the data becomes a lot more important and it plays a crucial role. And several interactions I had with our customers as well, and people are saying, okay, how can I optimize? Because yes, there's a big loss in revenue in the last 6 weeks or so, but I want to find out a way so that I can optimize, so I can minimize minimal impact on people, right? So now you want to optimize the cost and all. So that's where
Yeah.
data science, analytics, all this will become a lot more important and to optimize it. And as Yamini also said correctly, people, there might be a situation where some people will lose jobs and all, and people who are upskilled, people who are a lot more ready to take on bigger role, probably have higher chance of sustaining and growing up in the ladder.
Hmm. So what I'm seeing various questions about the various people who are highly experienced, and I think at the start of the session we saw which industries they come from. Now people who have not got these set of skills and are more highly experienced, maybe 8+, 10+ years experience. Do you think it's possible for them to transition into a career like data science? If yes, what are the roles that are available for them? And how do they do that? And I think keep in mind, 38% of them are from IT and manufacturing, sales, etc. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll be very honest. I will not lie here. It is a difficult transition for people to move into this role. It might take slightly longer than a fresher, but it is a need of the hour. People at senior level need to understand how to extract good value from the data. And if you are in that role, 12 years experience in front of CEO, and then CEO asks something, and if you say, I don't know, let me get data from my data scientist, it may be a difficult situation for you. I'm seeing more and more people approaching me or people whom I'm talking to with the 15 years, 18 years back. They're saying, hey, I want to learn this because there's expectation from my organization to do that. So it is required, but it's a slightly longer thing, but it's doable. It is doable. By the way, just for some of you, if you don't know, I just did my MTech last year. Okay. And why? Because yes, it is a need of the hour. We need to be a lot more upskilled, continuously skilled to meet the growing demand.
Got it. So what's that process like, Mukesh? Like, somebody who's thinking about it right now, we get so many different sort of people. Somebody who's thinking, okay, maybe I want to move into this role or, this industry or implement this in my current role. What exactly should they do to upskill themselves? How do they go about that? And what does that process look like over the next few years?
It's a combination. So as even Yamini said, right, it's not just becoming a data scientist only. So having the data part is crucial. So after you're done with the course, if you're thinking after 15 years of experience, now you're going to become a data scientist and compete with somebody else with 3 years experience, forget about it. Don't think that way. You should be thinking that, yes, I'm in business, I'm a product manager, I'm a marketing head, I'm a senior manager person. Now with this additional information, basic understanding of Python, be able to code a model, you will be in a business to have this lingo saying that, hey, I'm going to have a data science team with 10 people. Now you are interviewing this person. You are giving this model saying that, hey, we are going to do this and do this business, more upsell, cross sell and all. You will be able to do this better. So you are a lot more capable of doing those if you are the higher level person with the experience level compared to somebody else who is a tech person. Hey, I'm always a developer for 8 years. Why do I need to switch to data science? Yes, you can switch to data science. Nobody's stopping you. Yes, you can do that. Or you can learn this part and then say, hey, I can be a better tech person. I will be a big data engineer. I will be a data architect to get more value because I don't want to leave my current technology front. Plus, at the same time, doing a lot more statistics which a person will do. So now when you're compared with data architect with another architect, you are 30%, 40%, 60% more valuable to the organization. Of course, more salary compared to other person. So that's how people you should look at it. Data scientist is one of the job. I would say 50% of my experience is people will move into this role. Other people will just enhance their current role.
Got it. So I'm going to come back to that. I also want to touch upon, I think we've got quite a high number of people who are between the 0 to 5 year bracket as well, who are our audience right now. What about people like them? I think, some of them are starting out their careers. A few of them have just started out their careers and, wondering, is this something I need to invest in right now? Am I supposed to aim for this for the duration of my career? And if that is true, how do they do it? So I think two aspects is one, should people 0 to 5 look at this as a career? Number two, if yes, how?
So I would say if you look for it, right, data scientist, almost impossible to find right now, right? There might be only maybe 10,000 across India compared to several lakhs, I would say even more than a crore and IT people. So definitely there is a huge demand. So if you want to get into this and if you love data, I'm not saying mathematics, data. If you love data, if you're doing everything data every day, the examples I gave you probably will excite you. If you're everything talking about data, I think this is a job for you, and it is here to stay. It is long-term role, and I think it's a good time to get into this and then play practice. The only tip I will give you, whatever you're learning, if at 0 to 5 years, you probably have comparatively less responsibility otherwise. So all that 1 hour you are spending on TikTok or Facebook or Insta and all, you can reduce it to 5 minutes or so and focus, practice. During my time, of course, I'm not that old, but during my time, there was no internet. There was no option. Only thing was books, physical books. You have a lot of opportunity. Go to Kaggle, go to all these competitions which are there. Everything to do with data. You will be a lot more ready to face challenge and interviews and get to a level faster than somebody else who is probably just taking it lightly and doing it several other things.
Got it. What about, coming back to that aspect we spoke about earlier. So you're saying it is important. In terms of, this period now when everyone's working from home, is this the right time, to look at that aspect of, figuring out how you can upskill in this area, or should you wait right now and do it later? Like, what is your thought process on that?
I think this is the best time. I think we are saving 2 hours per day, at least 2 hours per day, or the commute time, at least. If nothing else, at least the 2 hours. I think it's a good time to learn and upskill ourselves. By the way, just for your information, I've actually signed up for 2 new courses recently, and I'm learning that, spending 3 hours every day just to learn new things. So the learning doesn't stop. Upskilling is happening. I'm not good at economics. So I'm learning those courses right now to get myself trained on those part of it. So while I'm teaching analytics and all, I'm learning economics part as well. So I think this is a good time because the industry needs that. When this COVID situation gets improved, the huge job will be there for data science. Even now, if you look at it, the only job which are getting posted on Monster or LinkedIn and all, 90% of them is related to data science. So you can use it yourself.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to you, Yamini. Are you audible right now? Can you hear me?
Yes, Stefan.
So I think from Upgrad standpoint, right, with this aspect of upskilling, is I understand there's some new initiative that is being launched or something that is there. Is Upgrad doing anything specific to help, people who are looking into data science as a career right now?
Yes. So guys, Upgrad right now has come up with this initiative where for the next batch, which is starting on 1st of June, we, instead of asking you guys to pay a block amount of 25,000 for our PGD program or 35,000 for our master's program, we are providing you with an opportunity to just join the program by paying a block of 10,000. This is because we understand that you guys don't want to make such a huge investment at this point of time. And also we give you, the batch is starting on 1st of June, and we give you time till 15th of June to make a final decision whether you want to go ahead with the program or you don't want to go ahead with the program. After 2 weeks of you having experienced the platform, after 2 weeks of you having experienced the mentors that we have and also the recorded sessions that we have, and it's only after 15th of June that we'll start activating your EMIs or whatever is the case, and the deductions will start taking place only from the month of July, which is generally not the case because we do it immediately. You pay the block and you sign up for the program. So here the entire idea is, because we understand what is happening outside is not something which is nice for us, and that is why we want you to upskill yourself, and that is why we have reduced the price with which you can start the program. And you can start the program at 10K on 1st June itself, and then make a decision in 2 weeks time whether you want to do the program or you don't want to do the program. In case you don't want to do the program, no questions will be asked and you can leave the program that day itself. And in case you want to go ahead with the program, you can always go ahead with the program. So yes, Stefan, that's what we are doing. And we are launching a lot more career fairs at this point of time. We are doing a lot more hackathons. We are doing a lot more quizzes with nice placement outcomes. We are having more networking activities in the form of webinars. We are having networking activities in the form of live sessions and as well as the coaching sessions, so as to make sure that you guys do get good placements at the end of the program. Yes, Stefan, that's all.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for that, Yamini. So I think just going to circle back last couple of questions. One more to you, Mukesh, and then finally to Yamini. So what is your final thoughts, advice to people in this time, in these coming weeks, just to sign off, people from various different experiences, 0 to, 10 to 15 plus, what should they be looking at in this time when they're looking at data science? Is there anything specific more that you would like to add to that?
So I would say, next couple of days at least, read a lot of articles. There are just search for data science and you'll see a lot of articles. Everything, including the COVID part, research is happening. Everything is about data science. So Singapore University published a model which talks about when this is going to end at certain locations and all. I created my own model a couple of days back using data. When the COVID situation, how many will be infected next couple of days in Mumbai and in India and all. And the model is coming out to be highly accurate. So it will be really interesting for you to read some of the stories and see it for yourself if there's interest for you or not. That's one part. Second part is learning should not stop. We are in high-tech industry. A lot of industries are adopting data. Even if you are in some other industry, data is here to stay. And even though I started my first AI algorithm 20 years back, it is still a lot of valuable there. So I think it's about time we need to get more train, more skills in this region. So that's my closing remarks.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Mukesh. Yamini, just to close, I think you were talking about earlier just some of the career aspects that Upgrad is doing. What more does Upgrad do specifically when it comes to the outcomes in careers for our learners that we try to focus on? Is there anything specific on that?
Yes. So Stefan, there is a process to it, and guys, there is a process to it. So once you guys enroll into the program, after you guys being into the program for 4-5 months, when you have had a hand of the program and you have learned certain tools, you have worked on certain assignments, we start building your profile. That is your profile across different platforms, that is starting from your personal branding to your resume building to your building your profiles across Naukri, across other job portals, so that in case anyone has an opening, you have higher chances as compared to anyone else in the country, right, as well as abroad. Yeah. The other thing that we do after this is that we make you give employability tests across companies. That is, we have around 350 industry partners, and those 350 industry partners post their requirements, and according to the requirements, and data science being our oldest program, a lot of requirements come for the data science program, because here the average salary hike that we provide is around 47%, and packages go as high as 70 lakhs as well. So in that case, what we do is that we make you give exams for these companies. And if you clear the exam, we start making you sit for mock interviews. And these mock interviews is with the industry mentors, it is with the industry experts who will guide you how to answer these questions, how to solve the data science query, and also how to solve guesstimates, which is related to data science, which will be asked in your final interviews. And depending on which area you want to choose, depending on which industry you want to choose, we provide you different kind of mock interviews, right? And after this mock interviews, when you finally get shortlisted for these companies interview, we also have a just-in-time interview scheduled for you, where you will actually interview with the head HR of some company, or you will be interviewed by some industry head there, and then he will actually give you a feedback on what all things you should change. So unless or until you become perfect with your interview preparation, you become perfect with all your test preparations, and your resume becomes perfect, we do not leave you, because we take full responsibility of you when it comes to giving you a good career transition. But having said that, we do not provide any kind of guarantee, because a lot more depends upon you and also the external factors. And it's your hard work that will finally give you the amazing transition that you are waiting for. Every year, we have people who get amazing transitions because they do look for it from the beginning, and they do focus on the program. They give maximum number of hours possible. They learn the tools very well. They do the assignments very well. They take part in hackathons, and they score very well even in the hackathons. So that is what is expected out of you also.
Great,
So I
great.
think about it, Stefan, the other thing that we do is the networking activities, the career fairs right now, which is on hold because of COVID.
Yeah,
The networking activities are still in place, but the career fairs are on hold right now. So the
Got
same happens twice a month in every metro city as well as non-metro location.
Got it.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Yamini. I'm going to ask one final question to you, Mukesh. I see a lot of questions coming in specifically with regards to sales and marketing, you know, those
Yes.
professionals in the sales and marketing industry. You know, how is this relevant for them? Whether it be somebody who's, you know, just entered into the industry in 0 to 5, or somebody who's more experienced in marketing. Is there anything specific that they need to do? Also, I'll be releasing a poll. If there's a specific program you're interested in, you can, you know, just put that in. So go ahead, Mukesh.
Yeah, so sales and marketing, I think there's very interesting stuff. I'll give you answer in two parts. One is in the current situation of COVID. You would have noticed, even Yamini touched this point, that some companies like Big Basket and all are doing much better than other companies who are a brick and mortar shop and all. So all this part, if you start collecting this information, you can pretty much come up with that this set of company, the business is big loss, other set of company, they're doing well. And when this opens up, whenever then it opens up, not everything that the last 1.5 months, like for example, a restaurant, it is not going to be like people are going to eat more just because the 1.5 months was there. No, it is going to be normal after that. So that 1.5 month loss is a loss compared to, let's say, if your TV was broken or if your fan was broken, you could not get it replaced this time. But yeah, when it opens up, you will get it. So each industry will have different impact. So sales and marketing around those would be a different ball game altogether, and ability to predict this particular industry, how much that would be and so on. That will be very interesting to see. Second part, which is your now normal, removing the COVID from the equation. Second part would be, as you go forward, right, you need to understand the probability of sale from this particular customer, the marketing, should we spend 1 crore rupees in marketing, or should we spend 1 lakh rupees in marketing, this segment, that segment. It's all number game. The more you are building the model, the more better would be understanding. The example I gave of experimentation and all those. So those will help you do better in marketing, and that's where the optimization would be. We cannot expect 10 people marketing team. If there were 10 people marketing team, now it's going to be 8, then it's going to be 6. In those cases, how can you be more effective? And then you can do the job of a data scientist, which they were hiring now. Now you are the marketing person. Now you're also playing the role of data science, because now you have the expertise as well, and you're optimizing it. Same thing goes for sales. So I think more and more jobs will going to collapse. People are wearing multiple hats, multiple work will be doing to get the output, which was not the normal earlier.
Great, great. So I think there are so many questions that are coming in. What we're going to do is, like Yamini specified, we're going to have a group counseling session sometime this week. And tomorrow you will get an email from us, I think, in the evening, with a form wherein you can fill in and, you know, let us know specifically, you know, with Yamini, who will be the program manager, taking specific questions about your career. So it will be a group counseling referring to your specific, you know, the questions you have about your career, and how Yamini will answer specifically for you. So do fill in that, so accordingly we can let you know and give you feedback on that specifically. But I'm going to close it over there. Mukesh, thank you so much for, your thoughts and your various questions and various answers about the program. But we're going to cut. Yeah, sorry, Yamini.
Just one thing, sorry to interrupt. So there, I can see a lot of questions, regarding less number of work experience and high number of work experience. I would just like to take that for a minute because I can see like 50-50 questions on each part. So just one thing here, that if you are still not in the field of data science and you are just making a move into the field of data science and data is something that you want to do, in that case, doing a program like this is very, very important, because only then you will work on all the tools. And I would request you guys to go to our website and check the brochure, get downloads of the brochure and go through what we are teaching you. Even if not the brochure, just go through the curriculum part in the website and you will get a clear idea about the curriculum, and you guys will have a clear idea about what the industry wants, and that is how you make a move into the industry. For people with very high experience, so when you move into the field of data science, it doesn't mean that you will become a data scientist and you will be comparable to a person with just 1 year of experience in the field of data science, right? Rather, you will become a person who will be leading the team of data analysts, or in your current role, if there is a project of data science which is coming in, which was earlier not coming to you, will now come to you. So that is how the difference is. So if you are in the initial phase of your career, it's very important for you to do these kinds of programs and learn all the tools so that you enter the field of data science very, very well. And on the other hand, with a high amount of work experience, it's again very important for you guys to know the tools very well, so that even if you have to lead a team of data scientists tomorrow, you can very well do that, because the field in itself is very new, and hence you cannot really find people with 15 years of data science experience. So that is never the scenario, and that is why it's never too late to enter this industry right now, because it's a very new field and opportunities are still undiscovered. And that is why, to discover these opportunities, to make use of the huge demand in this industry, it's the right time to do something like this, irrespective of the number of experience. Thanks, Stefan. I'll just mute myself now.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Like I mentioned at the start as well, we're going to have episode 2 next week, and that's going to be taken by Pradipta, who is the lead for data science in L&T Infotech, and he's going to be covering also on data science and how do we work on it in this COVID and post-COVID world, and what is the future of it like. So do join in next week. We're going to have every week from Monday 7 to 8 p.m. an episode. So we look forward to your participation in that. Thank you so much, Mukesh, for taking this session with us.
Bye. Have a good evening. Bye.
Yeah, you can connect with Mukesh on LinkedIn. You can see his profile and see the work he's doing as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Good night and stay safe.